Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in for the second episode of Win the Night podcast. So, for this episode, we ran into some sound issues, and you'll notice that the sound quality changes up quite a bit, and you're actually able to hear some of the noise going on in the background. That's primarily why the quality is very low on it. We had to filter out some of the sound from the construction that was going on in the background. You can hear it from time to time throughout the episode. So I do want to give that heads up, but thank you for tuning in anyways, and hopefully you still get a good message out of it. Thank you.
Matt, episode 2.
Episode.
Good evening.
Good evening. We're here.
So, man, this is pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. It's exciting.
First, I want to say thanks because you helped me out a lot with this. We ran into some issues, just to give some insight. We ran into some issues with equipment. I forgot my SD cards, and so Matt so graciously set everything up as I was getting running. So thanks, Matt, for that.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, like we talked about, we have to freaking on the fly
Adapt and
overcome, my
Yeah.
friend. And but here we are. So I just kind of want to start off, just like with any of my friends, is I want the world to know where we met and when we met. Do you remember any of that?
I remember we met in high school, and I'm pretty sure it was due to we would look at each other when I forget who it was. One of our friends, our mutual friend, would like say something crazy or ridiculous. We would look at each other and just be like, can you believe what?
I remember the Dragon Ball Z video, particularly was when we became good friends.
Yeah.
When Dragon Ball's P came out,
Mm-hmm.
and you would not stop quoting the Frieza's line where he goes, hanging out with little boys in spandex, I see. Yes. That was where I think we became really good friends.
Yeah.
But we did meet before, and we had mutual friends, and that's kind of how we were introduced to each other. And you were friends with a couple of friends of mine that I grew up with, and we were doing. Always, what's funny about this is that I've always been involved in cinematography to some extent. I don't know if you remember those days when we were doing short films, we were doing the comedy sketches.
The Fiddle Niddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course.
God.
How could I forget?
Yeah. So we were doing that, and had a buddy of mine that did all the videos. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. Who did all the recording and used to do cinematography as his profession. And do you know who I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll say his name, but then I'll block it out. But yeah. So yeah, we had a mutual friend, and then we kind of started talking, and then quoting things. Found out we liked similar things. You wouldn't stop singing Dio. And we listened to Dio on the way here. Holy Diver, classic.
Yep.
And I also remember you would ask who would win in a fight. Batman or Dio, as if, and my question was, why would they ever fight? So, but anyway,
you never know. They might, yeah.
I guess they might, and somehow Dio wins,
Mm-hmm,
according to you. But yeah, man, I've known you now almost a decade, at least, right?
Yeah.
And it's I've kind of lost touch with you, just like I did with a lot of my friends. And what has been going on? I mean, this is really our first time catching up, really.
Well, a lot of good things, a lot of interesting things, some things to work with and overcome, and good things have happened in my life, and like everyone else, you have ups and downs, and I've had some downs too, but I'm here now and I'm making it through the day, one night at a time. So I guess I got into machining and welding for a couple years. I really found appreciation in it, and creating something that could be like custom ordered within like very set specifications. So I found like a lot of order in my life because of that. I worked at UPS, and that's how I was able to afford going to school so I could get my welding degrees. And then after that, I started to save up money to be financially stable and set with life. And then I got a sickness called vascular necrosis when I was working as a machinist, and what that entails is oxygen can't get to your bones, so the bones start to decompose. And basically what started happening is we didn't know for a year and a half, 2 years what was actually happening. And what happened when I was working, I would work 10-hour days, but then 10 hours started turning into 9 hours. 9 hours turned into 8.5 hours, and then it got to the point where I would like be exhausted just trying to get through 8 hours. And I just got to the point where I physically couldn't feel like I could move, and I told my boss that something was going on, and they were completely understanding, and they were like, okay, well, you get taken care of with the doctors, you get yourself squared away, and we'll go from there. And so then it got to the point where when I was actually like walking around, I started having to use like a cane. And it was just a very difficult point in my life because at that time I was in my mid-20s, at the end of the early part of the 20s, and it's like, man, walking around with the cane during your sister's wedding is just kind of like a crazy thing. And I wasn't in amazing shape, but I got in pretty good shape after high school.
I remember.
I was out of shape in high school.
No, but I remember you getting back. You got into shape, and
that kind of just hit the fan, because when you have trouble moving around and stuff, the first thing that you want to do is just, there's nothing else to do. So I just ate. I just ate because there was nothing else to do with myself.
When did you notice exactly like something's not right? Did you just wake up one day like worse than another, and it just turned into something bad? Or
it was more gradual. Like, first I thought I was just tired, and then I also have bipolar disorder, so I thought that it could have been something along those lines, that, you know, I go through manic cycles and depressive cycles, so I was like, maybe I'm going through a rut, you know, an emotional rut.
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off. I wasn't aware also of that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
But go ahead and continue, but I would like to know about that.
Yeah, of course. I was just feeling just physically tired, and a lot of times I'm a very I consider myself pretty hardworking.
Yeah.
You know, outside of work, I work on other things too, and I like to do projects and things here and there. And it got to the point where that was the first thing to go. First thing to go was all the extra stuff. But I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll just, you know, I'm just going through mental thing.
So you were having like, you were tired, like
physically tired. Yeah. Just my legs and my hips felt exhausted, and I just wasn't in a good state of mind.
It affected you mentally too?
You know, it could have been a mix of issues.
Okay.
You know, it could have been, but I felt that because I was feeling weak, it was affecting me, because when things just get harder to do and you feel the progression, it just affects you mentally. And
I see what you're saying. So the physical fatigue set in as mental fatigue as you got more and more exhausted.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And it got to the point where my family was like, they weren't sure what was going on.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do, and they've been worried about my mental health for the past couple years. So the first part of it was them acquainting it to mental health.
Right.
And I knew it was something more than that, you know, and I was like, I'm trying to say it. And the process with the doctors was just a very long process, because we had to walk through the basic preliminary stuff, the blood tests, this and that, because MRIs are more expensive, so they don't want to do that first, which is understandable. You want to walk down the symptoms. But
at what point did you say, I need to go see a doctor? Was there a day you can remember?
It was while I was still working. It was definitely while I was still working. And I just remember when it was like a certain day when it was like an 8-hour shift that I just finished, and I'm on my way home, and I felt bad because I like to stay past then, and it's socially encouraged to stay past your 8 hours.
Absolutely.
At work.
Yeah. That's the work environment. Currently. Is that it's like a reputation of whoever leaves last is the hardest worker.
Yeah, exactly. And I believed in that,
Okay. That makes sense.
I did like to stay late, and my cousin was actually like my foreman, and so we had a very close relationship at the time, and he was in the Corps too.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was very close, and he in a lot of senses was he's older than me, a positive role model. Okay. I looked up to him
like
a lot.
A male role model.
Yeah, I really looked up to him, and I didn't want to like let him down, because in a sense, like I know he would never think that way, but like he stuck his neck out for me, and I don't want to look like a slacker to him.
Right. Well, you scratch his back when he scratches yours.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I wanted to just, and also show him, hey, like I work hard too. I'm not just like, I'm someone that like is dependable as well, in a lot of ways. Cause I saw him as like a very, very, very secure, his demeanor, his attitude and everything. And I didn't want to have him look down on me in any way.
Yeah.
But so it got to the point where I was fighting for my 8 hours, and I was like, I need to go get help. I need to get help. I need to go to the doctors. I need to get this squared away. And I'm not good with doctor stuff. I'm not good with it.
I think that's one of the things that I think maybe, I don't know if I don't want to speak for our whole generation, but I think that in general, most people that I know don't really go to the doctor frequently, don't really get checkups. And I think that that's something that there's still like a stigma to it, going to the doctor. Oh, there's something wrong with you. And maybe you have to almost like hope you don't want to go because you're worried they'll find something. Maybe that's something. I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. But I think there's something there where, because I'm kind of not against it, but like not very prone to first thing I do is, oh, I got to go see a doctor. When that should be the more natural response when something doesn't feel right. Well, just in case. Yeah. Right. But I don't know. I feel like that's a very uncomfortable topic. That's the best way I could put it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
If you're not feeling, if you're feeling like I'd rather not know in a weird way. And I know that sounds crazy, but like, it's like a lot of times I'd rather not know, just because a lot of it too is the emotional side of it is worry about my family thinking about it. That gets me worried, because then they what's going on with your doctor? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? And then they get more emotionally concerned, and I don't like. I've always wanted people to see me in good light. I don't like people. Oh, you know what I mean? Like worrying or being upset or.
Why do you think? Why do you feel concerned with that?
I think it just boils down to, like, when I was younger, I always like I see a lot of positive role models, and I think that it's like I don't want to be seen as weak in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be seen that way, and I want to be someone that like people can be proud of. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be someone that that needs to be carried and be held along. And so it upsets me and it hurts me when I can't facilitate that. And it's like, I feel like that's been my whole life struggle, because I feel no matter how hard I try, I'm always being carried, and, it just kind of stinks,
Do you think that it's weak to go through hard times?
No, it's funny because I look at it like logically, and I know that it's okay, but emotionally speaking, I have trouble doing it. You know what I mean? Like I try to break down things logically, but like I know, like just like going to the doctor, like logically speaking, you should go to the doctor to get your health looked at to make sure everything's okay every couple months or however many times is necessary. But emotionally speaking, it's just that whole basket case comes out, and it's something that it's just something I don't want to handle. You know what I mean? Because then it comes with all those not just the people outside that want to help, but the anxieties inside. You know, that's what I was going through. And so then on top of that, them always coming back and saying, we don't have an answer, we don't know what it is. It's like, am I crazy? You know, is it me that's just going crazy? You know, is it getting older? This is my first time that I'm human. You know, I don't know if this is what it is to be getting old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's okay. So then so not only are you anxious about the fact that, you know, you don't want to be a burden on anybody, and then on top of that, you don't know what's going on. So it's not like you can help facilitate the process to figure out how you can get back on your feet, right? So that's where the fear comes from.
And now they're anxious and I don't have answers. So now they're all, you know, sometimes my mom and dad, they'd be like lying awake uptight about it. Oh, I'm so worried about you. I'm so worried about you. And it's like when you keep coming back to them and say, I don't know what's going on, it's a hard pill for me to swallow and come up with them, and then they get continued anxiety. You know, so now we're all anxious together and we're all freaking out, and it's like we don't have an answer at the time. And it just takes time. That's just what it boils down to. It just takes time and checking off the boxes. So it's like you just have to keep searching. And eventually they stumbled upon it when I got my MRI. They actually found out that not only did I have the avascular necrosis, but my hip was actually busted. And I had a vertical fracture that was 6 centimeters long in it.
How did you get a fracture?
So earlier when I was saying I was getting in shape, I never told you this story, but when I was getting in shape, I was never any good at it, but a lot of times I do a little bit of MMA stuff, a little MMA training.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I did it for a few years, but I was never really good. But my little brother's friend wanted to get involved because he saw me hitting the bag and he saw me doing pads and stuff, and he was like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. And I wanted to show him a Superman punch, which is the counter to the
I know it.
Yeah. And I went to jump and do it, and I threw out my hip right then. I broke it right there. And I'm really embarrassed because, like, I'm hurting first off, but this kid I'm trying to teach, now it's like I don't even look like I know what I'm doing because, like, like I just broke my hip in front of him. So I'm limping away. Oh, just work on your drills, you know?
It was one of those moments where you hear the crack, and then you're like, oh, yeah, I was supposed to do that.
Yeah, and you're like, something's wrong here. I can feel it.
Yeah.
You know?
God. Okay, so then you threw a Superman punch. And as you landed your foot,
like my weight, my momentum shifted onto my hip, and it just cracked. I was in bed for 2 days after that. I couldn't get out of bed.
So did you know it was right then and there?
I knew something bad happened.
Okay.
I didn't know what. But
and how long did you wait before you figured out that it was broken?
It was soon after that is when we did the MRI.
Okay.
Because at that point it was so consistent where it was like me walking. And then another thing that my family was actually worried about was they considered it could have been the house because my house isn't exactly the most clean house. They were worried about something with the air, possibly something with that. And or maybe just environmental. So I lived with my sister for a month. And I stayed with her, and that's when it turned out it was actually harder to stay with her because the stairs were more aggressive, and then I had to do a long walk away, and so it turned out to be more difficult at the time. But they meant all well when they were doing it, so I don't begrudge them in any way. But then after that, the doctors told me it was a vascular necrosis. And the way that they explained it to me is they said, well, you're in a rock and a hard place. You can either tough it out for about 10 years, and then we'll replace you, or we'll replace you now. And the problem with replacing your hips now is that you will actively have to do it multiple times in your life. So this is my first hip replacement. I'm going to get another one around 40, another one around 60, and then another one around 8. But at that point, I'm just going to rock with a wheelchair. I'm okay with that, like I'm okay with that. But the good news is with that is that's today's technology. Like they're finding that 20 years ago is the length for the old hips stuff.
Right.
The new ones, they don't know until people start getting them replaced. Then they have a better assessment. So it could be potentially longer.
Right.
That's the way they explained it to me. But so I was like, well, I'm in a rock and a hard place, so I guess I have to get them replaced. I can't walk now.
Yeah.
I can't walk now. And at the time, actually, this was the most difficult point in my life. At that
I bet.
Like, I had $17,000 saved up, and watching. My dad would always offer me money. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept it from him. It was too humiliating for me to ask. And it hurts a lot because I felt like I got out of that. I felt I was getting close to the emotional independence or the financial independence that I wanted.
Yeah.
And just humiliate, and he's a great guy. He'll give his shirt off his back for you, but just coming up to him and asking him for it, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So my accounts went down on my savings, and I still would just, like I said, I'd just eat and sit there and play games. I'd work on some projects here and there on the computer, but the computer's only a couple steps away, so it's like that's easy work for me. But it was just a very tough time, and I found these books. I like history. There's a guy I like to read, and his name's Marcus Aurelius, and he has good history, good philosophy lessons, and it's not about life hands you things and puts you in a position, and it's like you have to always be okay with that. But the thing is that no matter what, you always try your best is the idea.
Yeah.
And I feel that a higher power, and however it is up there, was looking out for me at that time, and I needed that at that time, and it was there, and I read it and I went through it, and I was so blown away with the life that this guy had. And it's like, I thought my life was difficult, but I looked at his life, and his life is much more intense than my life could ever be. And he had a lot more on his plate. I'm sitting there. My concern is losing $17,000. His concern is 20% of his people are dying of a plague.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those are two different
Yeah.
levels of stress.
Oh, yeah. Every person has different levels and different things,
But despite that though, everybody is a Marcus Aurelius to some degree.
Yeah.
In that it's the biggest thing that's happened to you.
Yeah.
And so it's still relevant because although you might look at him and be like, well, he went through something harder. The way that I see that is, well, I used to see it like that too, where I would compare it is like, wow, well, they've been through harder things than me, so then I shouldn't be complaining, or, I think if he could get through that, I could get through that as well. But also keep in mind too that that's the hardest thing that you've had to go through.
Yeah.
And everybody has a different scale, like you said. And as far as I think, look, I didn't know any of what you were telling me, and thank you for opening up about that, because that's a really tough. That sounds like a really tough pill that you had to swallow, because I myself am super proud of the things that I do in independence, and I can't imagine what that was like for you, to have to deal with that. With now I have to accept help.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to do for this. That's why like I was also struggling to keep it kind of together because I can relate to that. With the podcast, I couldn't have done it without help.
Yeah.
And I hated accepting it, but I know that this is what makes it more special, is that I wasn't able to get through this by myself, and we don't.
Yeah.
I think we get through this as a community, as friends, as family, and I guess the reason why we're here is hopefully maybe we can push more on the idea that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to receive it, because I used to see it as weakness too to ask for help. But bro, I mean, I come from the military, where everybody's judging each other on how strong, who can take the most, who can work the hardest, run the fastest. And I lived like that. I still, to some extent, I have to fight it. I have to fight the urge to, when my mom offers me help, like, here, take $50, go fill up your tank, go do this. Like, I still have a hard time accepting that money, because I'm turning 27 this month.
Yeah.
Like, my question is, how am I still accepting and asking for help? And one thing my mom told me, and I hope this kind of resonates with you, is she told me my dad used to give me money when I needed for the business, because she runs a salon. And she's like, I was already in my 30s and going into, having my 4th, 5th child, and he was still helping me. And that's something that I feel is my duty while I'm still on this earth.
Yeah.
And so I thought about it. Wow, I'm here thinking about it like I don't want to accept help because I should be able to do this on my own. And she's out here thinking my purpose is to help you. And so seeing it from that lens, I was like, oh, this is all, everybody is benefiting from this. She's, your dad isn't going to help you if he doesn't want to help you, right? And so I think that it took a lot for you to accept it, but eventually you knew what had to be done, and I think that's part of growth,
Yeah.
So I'm proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
So to get a little bit back on topic, so then you go and you get your hip replaced, right? And how is that? What happens after that?
Well, I had both of them replaced at different times.
Okay.
And the left one was fine. The left one, I don't want to say easy, but I do want to say I was proud at the progress I made at my left hip. By the time I finished the official recovery process, I tried to get back in the gym a little bit, but I was still 2-3 months out from the right hip. The right hip was a whole nother story. The right hip, when they replaced it, and I got up on the walker, and this is my first walk around, and they have the rope around me to make sure I don't fall, and someone's like helping me up and walk. And I noticed something's off with it. It's way harder. And then even on top of that, like, I'm on my tippy toe on my left leg. I'm walking on my tippy toe. And they said, oh, it'll settle. Well, there's an 1.5 inch difference now between my right hip and my left hip. So when I walk, I have a bit of a wobble when I walk. And it was much harder of a recovery process with the right hip. It was much more painful. It was much more active. It was much more sore all the time, and then it just felt weak, very weak. And even now, my right hip is my weak hip.
Right.
Ever since then, and if I ever get pain, it always comes from the right hip.
How often are you feeling pain?
Once every couple days I get sore, but like now I'm not as much sore as I'm just trying to rebuild myself. Like I told you, I started working out again. It's hard. It's hard working out again for me because it's like I'm at the point where, like I said, well, like you said with Ask and Ask More, I asked my family, hey, I'm at the point where emotionally I don't want to do it. I don't want to get in there and work out, and I need you guys' support. I told my younger brother, I'm so proud of him because I wanted to be his role model, and in the past 2-3 years, I've seen him really step up to the plate. He took care of me, and he gets in shape now. He was pretty skinny, not in great shape. Well, he was in good shape, but like he was on the skinnier side. But now he's looking good. He's in good shape, and like I'm so proud to see how much he's grown. And I remember like every night he would, do you need water? Do you need this? Do you need that? And I'm just laying there. But the reason why I brought it up was like I go to him now and I'm like, hey man, like, hey, I need your help. Make sure I get out there in the gym. You know what I mean? Now he comes in on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday. Hey, you work out today?
Yeah.
And yeah, I need that now. It's I'm gonna get back to the point where I enjoy it again soon, because there was a point where I very much enjoyed I fell in love with running. I never, when I was younger and in high school, I was very heavy, but I never enjoyed working out until I was in good enough shape where I could.
Right.
And then after I did, I fell in love with it. And I loved the endorphins, and after a good run, just feeling that surge, that natural happiness that you get after a good workout. And that was kind of, I don't want to say taken away from me, but I couldn't do it anymore. And now it's at the point where it's like I have to work back. I can't run anymore. I can bike ride though. I can bike ride, but it just doesn't feel the same. I remember you talk about swimming is something I want to do. I want to get involved in swimming.
Yeah, and one of the we talked a little bit about it when we were setting everything up, where we were saying, adapt and overcome, and when life throws curveballs, one of the hardest things for me to do was to just let it go. I held on, like when something bad would happen. One of my biggest weaknesses is that I would, and I still fight to not do this, is when something bad happens, like I beat myself up about it. It's like, why, what did I do to deserve this? Like, I'm doing everything I can to do things right. And, why is this happening to me? And I've started practicing just how we did today. Let it be. I can't change it. That's what I have in front of me.
Yeah.
And so that's the cards we're gonna play, because that's the cards we were given.
Yeah.
And that changing my perspective has helped me a lot, so I can relate to that for you, that struggle of trying to see it in a better light, right, than what you have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why we always hit off very well.
Yep.
In life, like that's why, like you're a long-standing friend, and like you always have a very, very good outlook on things, and I gravitate towards that. Yeah.
Well, I'm very surprised, because the reason why I'm also good friends with you is for that same reason, is because you're such a positive person. But I'm so glad to see this other side of you. I feel more connected now because, I always wondered, like, man, you're such a happy guy. Like, you're such a positive guy. And a lot of times, because that's how people see me, but I've been through some really dark times.
Yeah.
And this whole podcast is in existence because this is the aftermath of that. And I'm so grateful to to be here with you and to share that, you know, some of our darkest moments together.
Yeah.
That's such a vulnerable thing to do, is to see a good friend of mine that I saw as such a happy guy all the time. Like, like to see that, wow, like I'm not the only one. Like, he's human too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So thank you for that.
No, of course.
And I really appreciate you doing that.
Like, a lot of it is me. I like people being happy when I'm with them, because I don't like people worrying about me. I don't like people worrying about me, and you know, like that really I know it, like the lesson of this and why I'm here and talking with you is because it's okay. Like, it's hard for me to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, it's okay if you go through stuff, you know, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to reach out, you know, and look for help when you need it. It's okay. And it's like, a lot of times I feel that, like, I want to avoid that at all costs, because, you know, like, when I would hang out with you and our friends and stuff, and we'd be laughing about all these jokes, why am I going to talk about things I'm upset with? You know, like, it's going to ruin the mood. And not just that, but it's like, I appreciate your guys' company. I'm insecure that you guys won't like me if I'm not always someone that you can enjoy to be around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of times I get worried that way, you know? I like to make sure people are happy when they're around me.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I personally enjoy, even more than before, your company, knowing this side of you, because I didn't know that you were going through all of that. I knew some of it.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about the issues that you had with your hip, but not to, you know, what kind of impact it had on you.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought this conversation, to be honest with you, was going to go, how did you stay so positive, rather than, I'm actually more relieved, not because that you went through that, but because I was like, wow, I don't feel like as weak as I did, because now I know that this is normal. Like, this is,
yeah.
it's normal to go through that and to have those moments of doubt and to worry about what others are going to think, because that's something I thought I was crazy for thinking about, because everybody else tells you, oh, well, just, you know, don't worry about what anybody has to say. But if they're my friends, right, if I care about them and I care about their opinion, you know, I do care what they're going to say. But I guess the reason why this is so important to me, and that I'm glad that you're sitting here with me to talk about, is that I want to change that. I want you to know I enjoy your presence in whichever way you come, and specifically with when you're opening up and showing me, allowing me to come into a very private room in your memory, right, is what I would call it.
Yeah.
And that's such a privilege to me to be allowed in. And I think that strengthens my friendship with you now.
I'll always, you know, like, I'll be more straightforward with things with you in the future, just because I'm grateful that you're setting this podcast up and giving me a place where I feel comfortable in saying this. With a lot of people, I wouldn't want to be here talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm grateful it's with you. I'm very grateful too.
Thank you for thank you for being here.
Of course.
And so then, just so I don't lose track. So you got the second hip changed out at a different time,
right?
At
a different time, 6 months later.
6 months after. Okay, so for the first 6 months, you were having some pains when you were walking? Or?
Yeah. The first 6 months was like, after the first hip replacement, I was feeling some pains, but I was like, hey, this is okay. Like, I remember like my whole family was like so impressed with me on the first half. They were like, I feel great. I feel great. I'm ready. Like in my head, I'm like, I'm going to get my life back. I'm going to get it back. Like there's like, I don't feel much pain. Like I feel a little bit, but that's to be expected. Like I'm not worried about like my whole bones are gone, you know, like, but I feel good. I feel like I can get my strength back. I feel I can get my life back on track. And
yeah,
I was excited. I didn't know what to do with my life now because the doctors told me no more manual labor jobs, no more welding. We want to get you out of those shops.
Yeah.
And at that point, that is where I invested myself in for employment, you know? And so I was scared about that, but I'm happy that I'm going to be walking soon again, you know?
Yeah.
And then the second hips replacement came, and it couldn't be more night and day. You know, it was completely polar opposite to how the first one went. I was so miserable and I was so hurt. And even just doing any of the workouts during therapy was like a terrible, it was just a terrible
What were they having you do?
Oh, simple stuff. Crouch a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little, I couldn't crouch past certain points. Start off on the bike, do a couple kicks like this. Not kicks, but pedal on the bike.
Right.
Simple, like they wanted me to do leg lifts. Like even just like take your legs, just kick them out. Kick out your legs. And it sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, I'm actually learning how to walk again.
Right.
Like I'm actually learning how I felt like a big baby. You know,
yeah.
Part of me felt like a big baby walking
like,
around.
Lift your leg.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
And I'm sitting there like actually fighting to get it up. You know, I'm like,
yeah,
just to get it up. And so that was the tough part on the second half. The left one, I still went through that, but I noticed the growth after a week.
Right.
And it was like, oh yeah, I felt that growth, but then with the right one, it was not that way. It was not that way. It was.
How long did it take before you were?
2 months before I felt like I was improving.
Wow.
2 months. And then after that, I was so used to being defeated that I would just beat myself now. You know what I mean? Like even when I was even like when I was started going through the whole thing, it just became this thing where it was just like I felt that I was destined to always be defeated by something. Something would always beat me, you know? And I felt that way, and I was convinced of it. And like this plays into the whole bipolar thinking, is that I have to break that. You know what I mean?
So,
like,
okay, if you don't mind me asking, how exactly does bipolar affect you?
Well, there's a big misunderstanding with it in society where they think you're happy, you're sad, you're mad, you're angry.
Yeah.
It's more long term. I mean, you do get through that sometimes when it's called rapid cycling. When in a day, if I'm manic, if I'm up, then like I might get really sad in the day.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. But that's not all the time. But it's more like a long term, like I had like before the whole hip thing, you basically cycle between 2 weeks and 3 months of being long-term depressed and then long-term manic. Yeah, that's what it's called. And it's when you get 2-3 hours of sleep, you can do anything.
Right.
And like with that, I had it very lucky, I think, but people would think it's crazy. Where I'd be manic more than depressed, where I'd be up doing, I was able to work 3 jobs at the same time. I'd work at landscaping, at a garden center, and at UPS while going to school. Totally fine with it.
Yeah.
You know, 14, 16-hour days. Let's go. Let's, you know. And, And but then I'd have 2 or 3 weeks where, you know, I just I just want to kill myself. And I don't mean it literally. I never would logically, but in my headspace, I would rather not live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess when you said the manic part, that I guess I didn't register. How often does it waver?
Every couple months. I'd say 3 to 6 months is when I taper, and then I get depressed for about 2-3 weeks. But after the hip replacements, I've been more depressed than manic. I've been very depressed. And like,
how do you manage that?
I tell myself that this is just my brain attacking me. This isn't reality. This isn't what it is that's going on. And a lot of it too was in the new thing that I've been doing is dependency on family. I remember at one point I had a complete manic episode, and I was this was right before my hips were replaced. But I had all these plans, I had all these ideas, and I'm trying to get them all done and manifested all at the same time, and I want this and that taken care of. And I was walking up and down pacing. My family and friends were around, and my friends are the ones that are helping me, and my family are the ones that are there. And I don't even realize how crazy I sound. Like, right. I don't, but I'm jumping up. I'm thinking 80 things, and I have so many plans, and I have so many ideas, but then this is happening, and this is happening, and the work is going like this, and I'm talking 200 words a second, and then I stop for a second, and I look at my family, and I look at my friends, and they're all like, and I see like just worry. It's not even like, oh my God, he's talking a lot. They're like he's going nuts. He's going nuts. And like, it's not a fun feeling having your whole family and friends all look at you. And once you realize that you stop talking, that no one has said a single word that entire time, but they're just all panicking, and they all don't know how to talk to you, because a lot of it was another thing that happens is I get grandiose. I think I have the capacity. I think that I have the capacity to change the world if I work hard enough. I believe that. I still do. I believe if I work hard enough, I can change the world, and I fight at that tooth and nail, And my family watches me destroy myself, and they're like, they literally see my body falling apart, and they just go, "We just want you to be happy." And it's like, the thing with it is it comes with a lot of sadness and a lot of hurt, but like there's beauty in it too. Like, I come up with creative stuff, and like I care about the world. I care about people. I have this deep appreciation for humanity. And it's hard when people tell you don't worry about it. It's hard for me to say don't worry about it, because I'm the kind of person that if I feel that there's a problem, I need to just face it straight up, full force, just handle it how it goes. And it's like being told not to is like, for me, it just sounds like sticking your head in the sand, but they're right. You know what I mean? They're right. And I remember I was talking with my sister and my older sister, and she's freaking out. She doesn't know how to approach me without hurting my feelings. So she's walking this delicate line, but she wants me to go to inpatient and get looked at and go to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm not having it. You know what I mean? I'm not having it.
Yeah.
But recently in the last manic cycle I had, which was actually a few weeks ago, I told Krista, and I called her and I said, "Hey, I am considering going into inpatient right now." And it's funny because I wasn't during that manic phase. It doesn't mean I'm upset. But I was physically exhausted from me being up, but I couldn't sleep. I'd get 1-2 hours of sleep for 5 days, and I have so much energy. Oh, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing great. But like, I remember I was on my way to work to my new job, ecstatic, absolutely. Dopamine is surging, and I'm like, head rush. I'm listening to music. I turn up the music loud. I'm singing to it and stuff. This is me after 4 days with no sleep.
Right.
Like, and I'm going in my head, then I shouldn't be feeling this way. But then it's like, then I'm exhausted from it. But I still have this energy. Like, I know that sounds so weird, but it's like, I can't sleep, I can't relax, but my body's tired, you know?
Is it like anxiety? Because I suffer from very heavy anxiety, and I couldn't be absolutely like physically dead where I just don't have any more energy, and I know I'm sleepy, but if there's something on my mind or there's something that I can't clear my head about, I will sit there and worry about it all night and not sleep. Is it like that?
Yeah, at points.
Okay.
At points. It gets like, I can't sleep because I have all these ideas and I can do stuff. It gets, oh man, I'm uptight. Like, you know, I see one article on the news, forget it. You know what I mean? And like, I also get like really, if I'm upset about how something happened with a family member or friend, I think about it all night. I can't get it out of my head, and I need to talk with them about it. I need closure.
Right.
You know, and it's funny because then on the other side of it, when I get on the depressive side, you know how it's like you guys don't see me when I'm upset and stuff.
Yeah.
I actively avoid friends and family when I'm upset. And I'll ignore calls. Like, I'm the worst friend in times when I'm a depressive person. I'm too afraid to ask out for help. And I burned a lot of bridges because of it. It's tough. Or another time is if I'm manic, I overextend myself. I tell 8 of my friends I can do it because in my head, oh, yeah, I got this. But then I don't want to let them down, so I let them all down. And it's crazy thinking. Like, it's actually, like, illogical thinking. You know what I mean? But then I think, oh, I can't let him down. Oh, he asked me something, and I like this person, and I want to show that I appreciate this person. So of course I'll help. And then I think, yeah, I can make that work. But then it's like, in reality, not in my head, but in reality, this isn't going to work. You've overextended yourself.
Yeah.
You said that you could do 8 things, but you can't do 8 things. And then that's when people get hurt, which they should. That's a wrong thing that I did.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I don't go into it wanting to hurt people. It's something that I do, you know, and it's like, I'm not making excuses for it either, because I know it's something that I need to stop. Right. It's something that is a wrong thing. It's not me just trying to say, hey, but something that it just needs to work on.
Yeah.
But like life is one day at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the best thing about it is that now that I know that, now that you know too that I kind of work like that too.
Yeah.
You know, I've never taken it personally. Just so you know, anytime that you've been away, I've never taken that personally. If anything, I think of it. It's funny. I put myself in your shoes in that sense, because I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to bother him, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of how I see it too. And I think that we do this over and over again, and not realizing that we both would love to be around each other. Mm-hmm. But it's okay to take time away and sort things out until you can be present in the way that you can be helpful to people. Yeah. And in the times in which you can't be present, if what you need is to be alone, that's okay. But know that here we are, or here I am anyway, and we could at least talk about that. Yeah. And we don't have to talk about what's funny, or we don't have to talk about what's happy today, but we can talk about whatever, right? Like, or why are you feeling depressed today? Why are you feeling anxious today? And that would be, for me, just as good as any conversation that we could have as friends.
Yeah. And I feel the same way.
And with that being said, again, thank you so much for all your help that you've provided so far. You've helped me out a lot, and I couldn't do this without you. So thank you. And I think on that note, we're out of time. So appreciate you coming out again tonight and helping me. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we won the night.
We won the night tonight.